Last offseason, Alex Anthopoulos essentially ignored the bullpen, and it cost the Braves in 2025. That cannot happen this offseason, and I'm going to tell you the top arms that are going to be available in the bullpen on today's episode of Locked On Braves. So let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I'm your host, Jake Mastroianni. You can follow me on social media at shortstopball. Check out the podcast there at LockedOn_Braves on X and Locked On Braves on Instagram. If you're new and you're watching this on YouTube, please do me a huge favor. Stop what you're doing real quick, hit that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button, and leave me a comment down below so others can find us here at Locked On Braves. It helps out a ton whenever you do those simple little things for me. And on the audio side, you can help out too. Just leave a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks so much for making Locked On Braves your very first listen of each and every day. I really do appreciate all the support that you give me here as we're getting ready to get into the offseason. Finally, the World Series wrapping up later this week, and there's going to be a lot of movement early on for the Atlanta Braves, so make sure that you're subscribed here to Locked On Braves. Today's episode, we're going to look at the top relief pitcher free agents targets this offseason, where I think the Atlanta Braves need to at least find two significant adds in the bullpen this offseason. Talked about it on my top priorities list the other day. I had shortstop at number 1, which we discussed yesterday, and number 2 on that list was 2 bullpen arms. 1 a closer, 1 a setup man. I think that needs to happen this offseason for the Atlanta Braves. We'll get into those options here on today's episode, which is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the FanDuel app today. So just quickly to recap, and I know we did this earlier in the week, but I just want to go over the bullpen situation from this past season and going into the offseason before we get into some of the targets. Last offseason, they lost A.J. Minter, who ended up signing with the Mets, and they lost Joe Jimenez to injury. Both those guys ended up missing pretty much the entire season due to injury. So I'm not saying that they should have not saying they should have signed A.J. Minter, but that's 2 losses in your bullpen from 2024, where the Braves had one of the best bullpens in baseball, and you did nothing really to replace them in the offseason other than bring in some has-beens, hoping that they would, 1 or 2 of them would figure it out or catch fire or something. I mean, from Craig Kimbrell to Hector Neris, you brought in guys like that and just hoping that they would figure something out and that they could reclaim their former glory. And it did not work out. And that's what happens when you shop on the sale rack. Sometimes you don't get what you were hoping for. And that's exactly what happened with Alex Anthopoulos last year when trying to fix the bullpen in a cheap way and not go out and get legitimate arms. Now, granted, they supposedly did go after Jeff Hoffman pretty extensively, but I think they were going after him more as a starter, and they backed out because of the medicals. But either way, they didn't. They didn't pivot. They didn't find somebody in the bullpen, and we all knew that was going to be a big issue going into the season. And then throughout the year, they finished with the 19th best ERA in all of baseball. Now, they did still throw the 7th fewest innings, so they didn't have to throw a ton of innings. Starters did a good job going deep into ball games, but still a 4.19 ERA was 19th best, and that's after they had a 3.32 ERA the season before, so almost a full run higher than they were in 2024. And in 2024, they threw the 3rd fewest innings, so not a lot of innings there either, with their starters being able to go deep. And you look at it by month, in March, April, they were 18th in ERA. In May, they were 7th, June 14th, July 27th, August, they were 13th, and September, they were 19th. So you had one good month, one awful month, and then everything else was just kind of in between. And that's, ultimately where the Braves bullpen landed last year. They were a little bit in between, but more to the bottom half of the rankings. And again, we knew that was going to be a problem for the team going into the season. Let's look at what's coming back real quickly before we look at the free agent targets. You have Dylan Lee, Pierce Johnson on a $7 million team option that I believe will get picked up. Tyler Kinley on a $5.5 million option that I think will get picked up. Joe Jimenez coming back from injury, and Aaron Bummer. Those are 5 guys that you feel pretty confidently about will be in the bullpen in some role if they're not moved in other deals. Other options behind those guys are Daysville Hernandez, Dylan Dodd, Joe Piamps, Hayden Harris, and Carlos Lara, Roldy Munoz. Those last three in particular, probably more down the road in 2026, not necessarily to begin the year, but you do have a little bit of depth there. It's a solid foundation for the bullpen. I mean, it's not like this is just an awful bullpen from the rip, but you do need more depth and you do need a closer. I mean, who in this group that I just mentioned do you feel good about as your closer? Who in this group do you really feel all that confident in? Dylan Lee struggled in the second half last year. Tyler Kinley's probably coming out the best finish to the season of any of these guys, but I don't know that I'd want him being the closer. Aaron Bummer's never really been somebody that's been trusted, at least by the former regime, a coaching staff. There's just not a lot here that I feel overly confident in. I think these are some good, solid bullpen arms, but I need more. And that's what I'm hoping will happen this offseason. So let's take a look at the top free agent targets for the Atlanta Braves to go after. And the top of the list is Edwin Diaz. If he opts out, which I think that he will, he turns 32 in March, 66 and a third innings last year, a 1.63 ERA, a 0.87 whip, 28 saves, a 28% strikeout rate, an 8.1% walk rate. So he was very, very good. Has had an xERA of 2.64 or lower the last 5 seasons. His four-seamer averages 97 miles per hour with a 39% whiff rate on his four-seam fastball. He's great, and he's going to get paid a lot of money, which is why he's going to opt out. He could potentially get over $20 million a year. He was making $21.25 million the last 3 years. So it's a good bet that he's going to get somewhere around that $20 million mark, if not more. Josh Hader got $19 million a year for 5 years. So again, you're looking at a guy that's probably going to get 4 or 5 years at $20 to $22 million. And are the Braves going to pay that for a closer? It's doubtful, but it would be great to not only get one of the best closers in the game, but get somebody that you could pull away from the Mets. So Edwin Diaz certainly going to be at the top of the relief pitcher market this offseason. Next is Robert Suarez. If he opts out of his deal, which I think he will, but it's a little bit more of a toss-up. And even if he doesn't, it could be a potential trade target for the Atlanta Braves. Now, he turns 35 in March, so a little bit up there in the years. 70 games last season, a 2.97 ERA, a 0.90 whip, 40 saves. He had 36 the year before, 27.9% strikeout rate, 5.9% walk rate. So those are very good numbers there. His four-seamer average is 98.6. So another flamethrower. Might not be elite, but has been really good, especially the past 2 seasons in that closer role. Could get him on a shorter-term deal because of the age. And the other thing, too, is that he might have a qualifying offer attached. If he does reject that option and goes to free agency, the Padres could still slap him with a qualifying offer, which then would potentially make signing him a bit more expensive. And then next on this list, before I get into some of the others, is Ryan Helsley. Turns 32 next July. In 2025, pitched in 58 games, had a 4.50 ERA and a 1.54 whip. Not great. 25% strikeout rate, 9.9% walk rate. Again, not fantastic. The strikeout rate has gone down in 3 straight seasons. He was awful after getting traded to the Mets, where he had a 7.20 ERA and a 1.80 whip in 20 innings. But his four-seamer averages 99 miles per hour. Could be a buy low candidate as somebody that's just looking to reestablish himself and then hit the market again. So a potential buy low candidate there in Brian Helsley that has really big stuff, big fastball, has been great in the past, but also somebody that has been declining the last few years. And we'll see, it would just be dependent on the price. But those are probably 3 of the top targets, especially when it comes for closers this offseason. Next, we'll get into the rest of this group. We'll talk about a lot of names that I think the Braves could be going after as they look to fill out their bullpen this offseason. We'll get into the rest of these names here next. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right means cashing in. With football back, NBA back, Prize Picks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes all in less than 60 seconds. All you got to do, open up the Prize Picks app. You'll see Shohei Ohtani in there. They'll have several of stat projections for him. How many times is he going to walk in game 4 or 5 of the World Series? Just pick more or less, go for the more, because you just cannot pitch to that guy right now. How many World Series walk-off home runs is Freddie Freeman going to hit? They probably don't have that one, but maybe they should. But that's really how simple it is on the Prize Picks app. Also, if you have issues controlling the way that you game, visit prizepicks.com/help-center/responsible-gaming for tips on how to practice responsible gaming. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Thank you as always for making Locked On Braves your first listen of the day. Go check out Locked On MLB for your second listen of the day. We'll get you caught up on everything happening around Major League Baseball, including that wild 18-inning game on Monday night. You can check them out there when you get done listening here. We'll have 2 more episodes for you this week in Locked On Braves. We'll have an episode on Thursday looking at the starting pitching market available this offseason. On Friday, we'll have our mailbag episode next week. I'll take a look at some big bats that could be available on Monday. And then on Tuesday, I plan to give you my ideal offseason, the players that I would target, what I would do if I were the GM. So all that coming your way in the next week here at Locked On Braves. Like I said, once the offseason officially begins, we're going to get a lot of movement. We're going to get that managerial hire pretty soon after the World Series, if not even before then, depending on who it could be. And then I think Alex Anthopoulos is going to hit the ground running. So make sure you're subscribed here to Locked On Braves. I gave you some of the top reliever options in the first segment. I'm going to go through and give you some others that I think are very solid players. I'm not going to go in too much detail on all these, just going to give you an exhaustive list like I did yesterday with the shortstops of some free agent arms that will be available that the Braves could target. The first one is a big helium guy after a breakout 2025, and that is Brad Keller. Transitioning to a reliever, he saw a bump on his four-seam fastball from 94 to 97 miles per hour, pitched in 68 games, had a 2.07 ERA, a 0.96 whip, a 27% strikeout rate, and an 8% walk rate. So somebody that might get inflated this season or this offseason. We'll see where the market goes on him, but definitely coming off a big year. Kyle Finnegan, a guy we talked about a lot last year that I thought maybe the Braves would go after, but again, they just decided not to address the bullpen at all. 34-year-old, this past season, he pitched in 56 games, had a 3.47 ERA, 1.11 whip, 24% strikeout rate, and 8% walk rate, 28, 38, and 24 saves over the last 3 years. He's been steady, not great, but he's certainly been a solid reliever who has a lot of closing experience, and his four-seamer averages 96.3 miles per hour. Next on the list is a guy you're all familiar with in Raisel Iglesias. We know all about Iggy at this point. Rough first half of 2025, but then was his usual dominant self in the second half. I feel very comfortable with Iggy coming back. I think the question for him is, where is he at with that slider? Can he get that pitch back to really help him get out right-handed hitters? That definitely would be a concern and a question that I have for Iggy as he gets up in age, but definitely somebody that I would not mind bringing back at all, especially if you can get him at the right price to be your closer. But if things aren't working out or he does regress some, that it's to a point where you can move on pretty quickly to somebody else, if there is somebody else that would be available for the closer's role. So I do like the idea of bringing Iglesias back. Still want somebody else, though. Next on the list is another guy that Braves fans are familiar with, and that is Kenley Jansen. And still getting it done at 38 years old. Had a 2.59 ERA, a 0.95 whip last year with 29 saves. I'm not all that thrilled with the idea of Kenley Jansen. I know he's still, getting it done, like I said, out there last season. I don't want to be the team that's holding him when things just completely fall apart. And so I'm not all that interested in bringing back Kenley Jansen. Emilio Pagan had pitched in 70 games last year for the Reds, a 2.88 ERA, a 0.92 whip, took over their closer's role and ended up with 32 saves, 81 strikeouts in 68 and 2/3 innings. His four-seamer averages 96 and has a nasty split finger to go off of it, so it could be a very solid reliever for the Braves. Hunter Harvey, here's a couple of buy low candidates for you. Hunter Harvey has been good when healthy, but being healthy has been an issue for him. Michael Kopech coming off injury, but certainly has some big upside with a huge fastball that can get into triple digits. And then Devin Williams, one that I've already seen a lot of Braves fans say they want to go after. 31 years old. This past season with the Yankees, pitched in 67 games, had a 4.79 ERA, a 1.13 whip, 18 saves, still had 90 strikeouts in 62 innings. That's a 34.7% strikeout rate, which is elite, and a 9.7% walk rate. His four-seamer averaged 94, so kind of on the lower end as far as some of these other pitchers, but it's really always been about his changeup. And it's still a very good pitch for him, although the whiff rate did dip below 40% for the first time since his rookie season, but still obviously a great pitch. When you look at the numbers and the metrics for Devin Williams, it just doesn't add up. I thought maybe he was going to have a ton of home runs being in the Yankee Stadium, but that wasn't really the case. I just don't know. Without watching all the games, because the eye test is still the best test, I can't really make out what was happening with Devin Williams, unless it was just a lack of location, maybe not enough movement on that changeup. I don't know, but the metrics, he had a 3.04 xERA. So definitely seemed to be some bad luck in there. Would be a great buy low candidate for the Atlanta Braves if you can get him, because the strikeout numbers are still elite. And if you can figure out whatever was causing him issues last season, maybe it was just a blip in the radar, could be a very good buy low candidate to become your closer, and a dominant one at that. So I like the idea of Devin Williams if teams are not valuing him as highly. Some others to consider, I'm going to throw out a lot of names at you here. Liam Hendricks, Jose Leclerc, Jordan Romano, Paul Sewald, Kirby Yates, Sean Armstrong, Sir Anthony Dominguez, Chris Martin, Phil Maton, Tyler Rogers, Luke Weaver, Jacob Junis, and Nick Martinez as kind of swing guys. You can throw Soroka in that mix as well. So there's a lot available. I'm not saying that I love all of those guys, but those are some of the free agents that will be out there this offseason. On the lefties, because I do think the Braves need to find another lefty this offseason. Right now, Dylan Dodd's the only one, and he's good against lefties, no doubt, but he's good against both. And so I think they need to get another lefty that is just truly dominant against lefties. Some of those, the list for lefties this offseason is not great. Jalen Beeks, Danny Coulombe, Caleb Ferguson, Hobie Milner, Drew Pomeranz, Taylor Rogers, Gregory Soto, Caleb Thielbar, and Justin Wilson. None of those really pop out to me except for Soto, and that's just the fact that he throws really hard. And so if you wanted to take a chance on a tough lefty there, you could go with Gregory Soto, but not a lot on the lefty side this offseason. Of course, I'm not going to try to even attempt to get in the trade market for relievers, because that's just a very wide net that you could go after. But I will mention one name in Pete Fairbanks. He has a $12.5 million team option with the Rays. If they are to pick that up, I think he becomes a very obvious trade candidate. And if he doesn't, then he becomes a very attractive free agent with closing experience. So just wanted to go ahead and mention him as well. I asked some of you, who are your top relievers to go after this offseason for the Atlanta Braves? And I'll take a couple of those comments here. Chris 1414 says Suarez, Williams, Keller, Iglesias, and Soto. That's a pretty great wish list right there. If you get two of those guys, I'm feeling fantastic about the bullpen this season. Bad News Barb says Keller or Fairbanks in a trade would also be fine with Iggy. So yeah, again, any two of those guys would be absolutely fantastic by me. I love that. Calvin Finner says Raisel Iglesias, Devin Williams, Griffin Jacks, Gregory Soto, and Reynaldo Lopez. Yeah, and that's something we touched on a little bit on Monday's episode. I don't know how nobody knows how they're going to play Reynaldo Lopez and or even Grant Holmes. But if it's decided that either of those guys need to go back to the bullpen, particularly I think Reynaldo Lopez, if you were to transition him back to the bullpen, that feels one of those holes for me, because I think he'd be a great addition to the bullpen. You could see that velocity jump back up into the upper 90s. I think they're going to try to keep him as a starter, but there is a world in which Reynaldo Lopez moves back to the bullpen and he becomes one of your better relievers out there. Definitely think that could be a possibility. Double A says that as well. I think Raylo should go back to the bullpen. It depends on what they do this offseason. If they're able to find a solid arm, I think I'm fine with shifting Raylo to the bullpen just to save him. Michael says Lopez doesn't want to go to the bullpen. I think he said that, if I remember correctly. I think that was his initial comment, is that, he really focused on coming back as a reliever, but then he had a comment later where he said he would be more open to it. So it's really just, it's obviously up to the Braves. They control them what to do. And I think it just depends on where the Braves are. And just because you move him to the bullpen doesn't mean you couldn't potentially put him back. But I think that's the best spot for Reynaldo Lopez going forward. Although it's hard to argue with a guy that was really, really good as a starter. It's just he also could be a dynamite reliever. And it's a tough call. It certainly is a tough call, because you don't want to give up on a guy who, was an all-star as a pitcher in 2024, had a 1.99 ERA, but it's also somebody that, hasn't thrown a lot of innings, and he threw 135 that year. Obviously, he only threw 5 this past season. He threw 66 innings in 2023. So how many innings are you actually going to get out of Reynaldo Lopez if you do use him as a starter? It could be a situation where he goes back and forth, but that definitely could play into the situation this offseason. So next, I'll get into some of the news of the day. We'll talk about that wild game on Monday, and does that potentially cement Freddie Freeman with a LA hat going into the Hall of Fame? We'll discuss that here next. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game a little bit more exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. As I'm looking at the odds as the game unfolds here on Tuesday, the Blue Jays are favorites right now, up 2-1 in the 5th innings, but it is a very, very close game. And this series has been a very, very interesting to watch. Look at the NBA side of things. I watched a couple of the Hawks games. I don't know where their NBA Finals odds started, but they are definitely going down. They're at plus 3,300. Last time I looked, they were plus 3,000. They have not looked good in the early going. The Thunder are the favorite right now to win the NBA Finals. You can see all that at FanDuel.com. Also, make sure you visit FanDuel.com/playsafe for tools and resources to help you stay in control of the way you play. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank you again for tuning in here to Locked On Braves. Appreciate all your support here on the podcast. Those who joining me here live, AA, Matt Karcher, Docs Cards, saying some blasphemy with Freddie going in the Hall of Fame as a Dodger. AA says no shot. He goes in with a Dodger hat unless it's something the MLB forces. Andrew says he could go in with no logo, and he certainly could. Big Poppy, Freddie is the man. We let him go. I'm not going to get into the whole situation about the Freddie Freeman saga. There was definitely blame to go around. AA certainly should have just paid him what he wanted. He's a franchise icon. It's also not, Freddie's not the reason the Braves haven't won anything since he left. And Freddie has some blame too. He should have just picked up the phone, and his agent shouldn't have given an ultimatum. And that's why Freddie ultimately fired him. So like I said, blame, they can go all the way around from the agent to Freddie and AA for how that situation unfolded. But I want to get into Game 3. It was one of the wildest games I've ever witnessed. And yes, I did stay up. It's why I'm recording a little bit earlier tonight. It's why I probably seem extremely exhausted, because I stayed up till 2 a.m. here in the Central Time Zone to watch that game that was really incredible for 12 innings. And then after the 12th inning, I was exhausted and really just ready for it to be over. But it's one of those things where I had put so much time into it. I had to see how it ended. And it ended with a Freddie Freeman walk-off home run. And there were a lot of balls that were hit deep in that game, one by Will Smith, one by Teoscar Hernandez, that I thought were definitely gone, that died. And then Freddie's, I thought it was just going to be a casual fly out to center, and it was gone. So it was just a weird night too for some of those fly balls there as the night went on. But Freddie Freeman with his second walk-off home run in the World Series. And you assume now if the Dodgers go on to win this World Series, we'll have 3 World Series championships, 2 with the Dodgers, World Series MVP. And you just have to wonder. Freddie Freeman's a Hall of Famer. He's going into the Hall of Fame. I think that's all but solidified at this point. And you have to wonder as a Braves fan, if he accomplishes another World Series with the Dodgers, finishes out his contract there, does he go into the Hall of Fame as a Dodger? And should he? I think it's a legitimate argument. I would have said when he got traded over there, no way, because he spent so many years with the Braves and won a World Series there, won an MVP there. I don't know. I really don't know, because it's going to be a toss-up. And there's a possibility he does go in with no logo as well. But he's going to accomplish a lot with that Dodgers team. And it's a lot of the talk that happened amongst Braves fans after that game is, one, they, let Freddie Freeman get away, however you want to, whichever side of that argument you fall on, but also, where does he ultimately land when he's finished playing? Is he a Dodger or is he a Brave? I think that's a lot of people are questioning. You see Dodgers fans, I saw some of their comments on social media saying he's going in as a Dodger. He's a true Dodger now. And with all he's accomplished there, it's hard to argue that. So I don't know. I wanted Freddie. I just had dreams and visions of Freddie coming back to Atlanta one day, maybe to finish out his career, going into the Hall of Fame as a Brave, going into the Braves Hall of Fame. I don't feel as confidently about that anymore. With all these big moments that he's had with the Dodgers. I think Double A is right in this. I think the best choice is that he should probably be a no logo guy, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's what happens. But I definitely don't think it's a Braves logo at this point. I think it's either a no logo or it's a Dodgers right now, and that's tough pill to swallow. I hate the way that it unfolded. Like I see Rick saying that it's AA's fault. It's a lot of people's fault. It's AA's fault. It's Freddie's fault. It's his agent's fault. Freddie fired his agent. That's really all you need to know about that whole situation. But Freddie also should have just picked up the phone and called AA. AA should have picked up the phone and called Freddie. He would still be with the Braves. He'd be a Atlanta Braves icon for the rest of his career. I don't know that it changes anything about these past 4 seasons, but at least he would have been a Braves for life like he should have been and like he wanted to. But like I said, a lot of blame. You can put it on whoever you want to. I definitely understand those who say it's AA's fault. I agree. AA probably should have just given him the 6th year and give it in on that, but he didn't. And then things escalated from there with the agent, and here we are. There's nothing you can really do about that. And Matt Olson has been fantastic. Like I said, it's not necessarily been a loss in production of Freddie Freeman. It's just the fact that you should have had an icon for your team, for the city, and now you don't. And now you're going to potentially see him going to the Hall of Fame with another logo or no logo at all, and that hurts. That really does stink as a Braves fan. So incredible game, though. Just so many good moments in that game 3. If you watched it, good on you. I'm a little upset that I did now, but it was fun in the moment. Ohtani reaching base like 30 times. Just incredible. It's been a fun World Series. I can't wait for it to end because I really want things to start picking up in the offseason, but it has been a fun World Series. The Blue Jays have given the Dodgers everything that they can handle so far. So I really am enjoying this World Series. Well, thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of Locked On Braves. Appreciate you being here. Jella, Matt Carter, Jeffrey Humphreys, and every day are making it in here. Highway 9 Atlanta says, I'm fine with Olson. I am too. Like I said, that's what I posted on social media today. Matt Olson has the most F4 amongst Braves players since joining the team. It's not Matt Olson's fault. The Braves haven't done better since he came here. Scott Bingham in here as well. I appreciate you all joining me on today's episode. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube if you haven't already. Hit the thumbs up button. Leave me a comment down below. Make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast, and we will talk to you next time.